Ice Cube chose his beliefs over $9 million. And what Hollywood did next destroyed him. The man who survived South Central, built an empire from nothing, and changed American culture forever, just said no to one of the biggest paychecks of his career. That decision shook Hollywood, confused his fans, and started a quiet shift in his life that he's still dealing with today at 56 years old. But to understand why he made that choice and what it cost him, you need to know the pain he's been carrying since he was just 12 years old. This is the story of a legend who lost more than most people will ever know, fought harder than anyone expected, and now faces challenges that have nothing to do with talent or success. June 15, 1969, a baby boy was born in Westmont, a tough corner of South Central Los Angeles. His parents named him O'Shea Jackson, but the world would come to know him as Ice Cube. His father Hosea worked long days maintaining the grounds at UCLA, coming home tired but proud. His mother Dora spent her shifts at the hospital, then came home to guard her children with a fierce protective love. Money was tight, really tight, but they stretched every dollar and gave their kids stability even when the neighborhood around them felt dangerous and unpredictable. Sirens echoed through the streets at night, reminding everyone that trouble was never far away. Outside those walls, South Central was a place where you learned to be careful, to watch your back, to understand that safety was temporary. Ice Cube had an older brother named Clyde, and their family had creative blood running through it, connected to artists like Del the Funky Homo Sapien. But even with that artistic spark, nothing could prepare a young boy for what was about to shatter his childhood. When Ice Cube was only 12 years old, tragedy ripped through his family like a tornado. His sister Beverly, who was in her late teens, lost her life suddenly and unfairly. One moment she was there, and the next she was gone. Ice Cube watched his mother's knees buckle when she got the news, saw her cover her face with her hands, trying to hide from a reality too cruel to accept. His father just stared at the floor, searching for something solid to hold onto in a world that had just collapsed beneath him. On the day of Beverly's funeral, 12-year-old Ice Cube stood on the sidewalk with his hands in his pockets, watching the car drive away. Something inside him dropped into a place he would never be able to reach again. Years later, he admitted that losing Beverly changed how he saw every single day. It taught him how fragile life is, how quickly someone you love can be taken away. In the weeks after her death, their home felt colder, like grief had taken a seat at the dinner table and wouldn't leave. His mother spent hours staring out the window at nothing. His father spoke less and less. Ice Cube moved through the house carefully, afraid to disturb memories he wasn't ready to face. He grew up fast in ways he couldn't explain at the time. Beverly's absence left a hole that shaped every choice he would make for the rest of his life. But the only thing that helped was something he discovered almost by accident. Around the age of 14, a friend challenged him to write some rap lines. What came out surprised everyone, especially him. The words felt heavier, truer, sharper than he expected, like they had been waiting inside him for years. He started writing late into the night, hunched over a small desk under a dim light bulb, pouring his sorrow and his observations about the streets into verses that felt like releasing pressure from his chest. No teacher ever showed him how to write like that. Only pain taught him. Writing wasn't a hobby or a fun activity. It was survival. It was the only place where his fear softened and his memories found a shape he could control. From those quiet nights alone with his thoughts, a voice began to rise. A voice the world would eventually recognize as one of the most important in hip-hop history. Every morning, Ice Cube rode a bus from South Central to Woodland Hills to attend Taft High School. He pressed his head against the cold window, watching the city blur past, traveling between two completely different worlds. Taft High School felt unreal to him. The floors were polished, the kids laughed easily, and faces looked at him with curiosity or caution. He walked those halls carrying grief, so tightly stitched inside him that nobody could see the weight he dragged from class to class. Some days, the pressure of living between a house full of painful memories and a school that kept him at a distance felt almost unbearable. But he kept going, guided by a silent promise he made to himself the day Beverly died. He would keep moving forward even when he didn't know how. In 1987, he tried to choose a stable path by enrolling at the Phoenix Institute of Technology to study architectural drafting. He was good at it, really good. His focus was sharp, his hands were disciplined. But even the clean lines and perfect angles of blueprints couldn't quiet the fractures inside him. He realized that no house he designed could rebuild the broken pieces of his own life. After a year, he walked away from that safe career and returned to Los Angeles with nothing but determination and the ache of someone who had grown up too fast. It wasn't rebellion, It was truth rising up because silence had become unbearable. Music gave him that space. He poured himself into writing, not because he wanted fame, but because he needed to survive. With his cousin Sir Jinx, he formed a group called CIA and performed at backyard parties where Dr. Dre worked the turntables. Those gatherings were loud and electric. Everything his quiet home wasn't. Somewhere in that pulse of energy, something inside him unlocked. Dr. Dre felt it too. He didn't just hear rhythm in Cube's delivery. He heard weight and precision in every single line. At 16 years old, Ice Cube sold the song Boys in the Hood to Eazy-E, and even though fame was still far away, the air around him shifted. For the first time, someone outside his neighborhood looked at him and saw not just a kid from South Central, but a voice worth hearing and a truth worth carrying. The climb wasn't easy. Rap was dismissed by mainstream America, judged before anyone even listened. Ice Cube came from a place that was often labeled, overlooked, or feared. Some people wrote him off before he opened his mouth. But he had already survived a loss that rewired his entire world. After that, rejection felt small. He wrote deep into the night, letting South Central guide him. The hum of street lights, the distant sirens, the weight of memory. With each verse, he built something stronger than any blueprint he once studied. Success didn't arrive gently. It crashed into his life like a storm. When Ice Cube joined NUA, he became the sharpest writer in the group, the voice of neighborhoods America wanted to ignore. Straight Out of Compton exploded in 1988, forcing the nation to face realities it had been avoiding for years. His lyrics didn't entertain, they confronted. But while the world echoed his words, the business side told a cruel truth. Contracts hid what he deserved. Promises were packaged as praise, while he received a paycheck of only $32,000 for an album selling millions of copies. The fire he gave to NUA was being smothered by signatures that didn't include his name. Walking away in 1989 felt like stepping into darkness without a map. But he chose dignity over comfort, fully aware that the price of honesty was loneliness. The early 90s proved why he had been the backbone of NUA all along. America's Most Wanted dropped in 1990 and hit like a national alarm. Death Certificate followed in 1991, fearless and too honest for some people to handle. Then came The Predator in 1992. Selling over 2 million copies and becoming the only album that year to top both the pop and R&B charts. At just 23 years old, he was shaping the country's conversation about race, police brutality, and life in the inner city. But greatness is heavy. He worked 16-hour days, slept on tour buses, lost his voice between shows, and carried expectations that could break even the strongest stars. Hollywood offered him a new challenge. But it wasn't easier. In 1991, director John Singleton saw something raw in his eyes, something that couldn't be trained in acting school. Boys in the Hood turned him into an actor the industry could no longer dismiss. But acceptance didn't come easy. He entered casting rooms where people saw a rapper before they saw a performer. He studied scripts until dawn, rewrote scenes to make them feel real, and learned how to work with cameras the way he once learned how to work through pain. Friday in 1995 changed everything. He wrote it and starred in it, turning a $3.5 million budget into $28 million at the box office and creating a cultural phenomenon. Through his company Cube Vision, he produced massive hits like Barbershop, which made $75 million, Are We There Yet, which brought in nearly $100 million. In 21 Jump Street, success didn't make the weight lighter. It made the stakes higher. Then came the Big Three Basketball League in 2017, his boldest move and his heaviest burden. Turning a rapper into the owner of a professional sports league sounded ridiculous to critics, risky to investors, and impossible to everyone else. But he built it anyway. Arenas, athletes, contracts, lawsuits, partnerships. Every decision came with huge amounts of money that could shake anyone's confidence. The league burned through millions before making a single dollar. There were nights he stared at the financial numbers, knowing that failure wouldn't just cost money, it would damage his legacy. But he kept pushing the same way he pushed through those long bus rides from South Central, through studio sessions that lasted until sunrise, through every door that tried to close on him. But even legends face storms they don't see coming. In 2021, Ice Cube quietly walked away from a movie called Oh Hell No, turning down a role worth $9 million because he refused to take the vaccine the studio required. He didn't protest loudly. He didn't argue. He didn't try to convince anyone. He simply said no and accepted everything that decision would cost. In Hollywood, $9 million isn't just a paycheck, it's momentum, protection, and the kind of stability even legends fight to keep. He walked away knowing that decisions made in silence often echo the longest. Later, behind closed doors, he admitted the loss hurt deeper than money. It hurt in that quiet place where principle and consequence collide and neither side walks away clean. But the pain didn't end with that lost paycheck. What followed was something no camera captures, the subtle but unmistakable feeling that Hollywood was drifting forward without him. Not punishing him, not shutting him out, just moving on. Sometimes that's the crueler wound. He watched younger names fill spaces he once occupied. He watched new rules settle into the industry. He watched opportunities appear in rooms where his name was no longer the first mention. He once said, though with a heaviness he didn't hide, that Hollywood changes like weather, and if you don't keep your guard up, you'll wake up in a season you didn't expect. For him, winter arrived early, cold, quiet, and without warning. There were days when the phone stayed silent, when a project he believed in went to someone else, when a meeting ended with polite smiles but unspoken doubts. Days when the whisper "your time has passed" felt louder than applause ever did. But Ice Cube had heard that whisper before. He heard it at 19 when he left Newell with nothing but his truth. He heard it when critics dismissed his early solo work. He heard it when he stepped into acting, when he launched the Big Three. Though being told you may not be needed anymore at 56 cuts differently, he faced it the same way he faced every storm before, with the quiet endurance of a man who refuses to shrink. His career tested him and reshaped him, but his family was the grace that steadied every storm. Long before the world knew his name, Ice Cube met Kimberly Woodruff. She didn't fall for him at first sight, but something in the quiet confidence of her walk made him pause. She moved through the world with grace that made noise fall away. By the time they married in 1992, he was standing at the edge of fame, but they were still two young people counting grocery money under yellow kitchen lights, sharing late dinners on a couch that squeaked every time they moved. Nothing was glamorous, but everything was honest. As his career took off, the cost at home deepened. Kimberly ate dinners alone, her fork scraping against a plate with no second hand reaching for it. She tucked their 5 children into bed on nights when his schedule became a blur of airports and hotel rooms. He missed birthdays, school plays, first steps, moments he later pieced together through photographs and rushed phone calls. Then came the night that carved itself into their marriage, their son's birthday. The candles burned low. Kimberly checked the door again and again, each time returning to a stillness heavier than disappointment. When their son finally asked, "Is Dad coming?" she knelt down, brushed his hair back, and whispered, "He's trying." But Ice Cube didn't make it home. Hours later, he stood in the hallway listening to silence. Through a cracked door, he saw Kimberly at the table with her head bowed. On the couch, their son slept clutching the wrapped gift meant for his father. In that breathless moment, Ice Cube felt something fracture inside. He had gained the world, but was losing the time that mattered most. What saved them wasn't apologies or grand gestures. It was the quiet bravery of staying even when staying hurt. Ice Cube began coming home differently, slower, more present. Kimberly noticed the shift. Instead of pulling away, she leaned in. Their 5 children, O'Shea, JRB, Daryl, Karima, Deja, and Sharif, unknowingly stitched their parents back together. In 2015, when O'Shea JRB portrayed his father in Straight Outta Compton, the family sat together in a dark theater. As the film flickered across the screen, Ice Cube watched his own life reflected through his son's eyes, and something inside him healed. The world also remembers the day Eazy-E left us. For millions, it felt like the end of an era. But for Ice Cube, it was the loss of a brother he never got to forgive. They had once stood shoulder to shoulder in cramped studios, 2 boys from the margins trying to turn raw sound into legacy. Fame lifted them, money divided them, pride silenced them, and then life closed a door neither knew was about to lock forever. It was Eazy who believed in him when his name held no weight, who bought Boys in the Hood when Cube was just 16. But contracts twisted intentions. Loyalty turned to tension. Cube walked away in 1989 carrying anger and regret. Then came the call in early 1995. Eazy-E was in the hospital with severe pneumonia from AIDS complications. Ice Cube felt 8 years of conflict slam into him all at once. Every argument, every moment he thought he could fix later. When he finally walked through those hospital doors, he approached the room and froze. He couldn't go in. Later, he confessed he didn't know what he would have said. On March 26, 1995, Eazy-E was gone, and with him went the last chance to repair what had broken between them. At the funeral, Ice Cube stood with a weight no headline could capture. The regret settled into his chest like something that would never loosen. Now at 56, Ice Cube stands with a net worth estimated around $160 million. His Marina del Rey mansion features floor-to-ceiling glass, floating staircases, ocean views. His Encino estate spans 8,000 square feet with 7 bedrooms, a recording room, full gym, basketball court, and resort-style pool. His car collection is worth nearly $700,000. For a man who started with nothing, these aren't symbols of excess, they're reminders of survival. At home, life is quieter now. He and Kimberly still share the partnership they committed to back in 1992. Their eldest O'Shea JRB is a successful actor who often drops by with his own child, turning Ice Cube into a grandfather. When he comes home now, he leaves the public world at the door. Here he's not a rapper or mogul. Here he's a husband whose favorite place is the sofa beside his wife. A father giving advice over backyard barbecues. A grandfather who smiles wider than he did in his youth. Even now, with decades of success behind him, Ice Cube moves through the world with steady confidence. He's still on the road, still building projects. The Big Three continues to grow. Time has touched him, but instead of softening him, it refined him. There's calmness in his eyes now, as if he finally understands that the world can change around him as much as it wants. But the man at the center remains unshaken. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think about Ice Cube's journey.